Although I did, it is very nice. Thank you for coming. Let us know how it is. Let us know. Let us know. Let it put. You are. I made it in 55.
Was it icy? It was like super icy.
No, I cut down Burns Road to say 5 minutes, which is dirt.
Well, I took Carol, Carol and Cooley and.
Watch for red light.
Oh.
Let's call the meeting to order of the Oakland County Board of Commissioners Planning and Building Committee. Could we have roll call, please?
Crawford.
Here.
McGilvray is absent with the notice. Dwyer.
Here.
Teets.
Here.
Jackson.
Here.
Weipert.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Could you please join in the Pledge of Allegiance with me?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Could we have a motion to approve the previous minutes, February 27th, moved by Commissioner Crawford, supported by Commissioner Jackson. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passed. Could we have approval of today's agenda? Motion to approve the agenda by Commissioner Dwyer, supported by Commissioner Jackson. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passed. Any public comment today? Seeing no public comment, we'll move on to today's regular agenda. The first item is Parks and Recreation support of an application for a 2018 Land and Water Conservation Fund grant for replacement of the fishing pier, boat launch, and dock at Orient Oaks County Park. Could I have a motion, please? Moved by Commissioner Crawford, supported by Commissioner Jackson. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Dan Stensel, Executive Officer for Oakland County Parks and Recreation Commission. And I have Melissa Prouse, our Supervisor of Planning and Resource Development. And these are the items on today's agenda are grant opportunities for replacing assets that are 40 years plus in terms of age, and Melissa will provide you with the details.
Good morning.
Good morning. These are both pretty simple projects. It's replacing existing infrastructure out of the parks. As Dan said, it's reached the end of its useful life and it's becoming a little on the unsafe side, and we want to replace it. We also want to upgrade for accessibility wherever we can with these projects as well, so we'll be adding some elements to make everything a little bit more accessible as we replace these features. So the Land and Water Conservation Fund, this is National Park Service money that comes to us through the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. We're looking to apply for a $65,500 grant, which is 50% of the project, which is the requirement for Land and Water is that you apply for 50% of your total project cost. So this is for an existing fishing pier and then a concrete boat ramp and dock at Orient Oaks. And I just wanted to point out, we did a countywide survey in 2017, and a few of the top things in that survey that we heard from our residents were boating and fishing access, and access to the lakes within the county. So this ranks high among our residents in terms of projects.
Thank you. Any questions? Anybody? Is there a difference in construction between 40 years ago and, all our peers have been, boat launch have been ADA compliant, and, I mean, how's that?
Yeah, I mean, it'll, a couple things, like the transition platforms currently are not accessible, so that will be a change. At the fishing pier, things like the railings will be lowered all the way around so that it's accessible to anyone to use. The benches will be accessible. There'll be some sort of fish cleaning stations and tackle box stations associated with the benches that are also ADA accessible. So just some minor
That weren't there
improvements
before.
That weren't there before, right?
Yeah.
The concrete ramp and the dock associated with the launch are pretty much the same.
I saw, and you said it's National Park Service, but I also saw it had the recreational passport
Yes.
logo all over. Is that part of our?
That's two separate, that's the next one.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Is anything going to be reused from any of the pier? I know they had a lot of aluminum rails, or is it just taken out?
I don't know the answer to that. We do save and reuse whatever we can, so if it's salvageable, they'll save it and reuse it.
We
If
have
it's
some
not,
very
they'll recycle it.
talented, skilled maintenance staff that try to reuse everything and repurpose it.
Repurpose, yeah. I know
Yeah.
your department's very good at that. Any questions from what I asked? Call roll, please.
Crawford,
Yes.
Dwyer,
Yes.
Teets,
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Swiper.
Yes.
Motion carries.
That passed. Item number 2 is Parks and Recreation support of an application for a 2018 recreational passport grant for replacement of the boathouse dock and deck at the Independence Oak County Park. Need a motion? Commissioner Crawford, supported by Commissioner Jackson.
So once again, this is replacement of existing infrastructure. This is the boathouse at Independence Oaks. It has an associated deck off the back of it, and then the floating dock system where we rent all of our canoes and kayaks and boats out of. And again, the infrastructure is just, it's not accessible and it's failing. Some of the parts are kind of sinking into the water, so it's time to go ahead and replace that. We're looking for $92,900, which again is 50% of the total project cost. And this is recreation passport funding, so this is money that comes out of the fund when you renew your license and you pay that extra $11 to get you into all the state parks. A portion of that goes into this grant fund to rehabilitate parks within the state of Michigan. So that's where the money comes from.
Any questions? All right, let's call the roll.
Dwyer,
Yes.
Teets,
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Crawford.
Yes.
Whiteford.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Item number 3 is Facilities Management, Facilities Planning, Engineering, Probate Courtroom, Ingress, Egress, Flow Enhancements Project. Need a motion? Moved by Commissioner Dwyer, supported by Commissioner Jackson. Good morning.
Good morning. Ed Joss, Manager of Facilities Planning and Engineering.
Hi, I'm Judge Ryan. I'm the Chief Judge of Probate Court.
Art Holdsworth, Director of Facilities Management.
All right, the project before you is the Probate Courtroom Ingress and Egress Flow Enhancement Project. There are 4 courtrooms in the east wing of this building here at the courthouse, and the plan is to do some renovations and some modifications to those spaces to create a little bit more room. The project, between the 4 courtrooms, there's about 3,600 square feet. The plan in each of them would be to widen the doors, provide some more, some door hardware that's a little bit easier to operate, widen the aisles, and create wheelchair space in the public space. The estimate for renovating all 4 courtrooms is just under $165,000. I guess with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions? Commissioner Crawford.
Is anything being done with this new renovation and maybe a different renovation with the issue of indigent defense fund and separate rooms for clients and attorneys and all that? What are we doing? It's a little bit off the subject, but it might be on it. I don't know.
I can answer that. Basic answers. That really won't apply to the probate courtrooms.
Okay.
Because we don't have defendants or criminals.
All right, okay.
And so if they implement any of the indigent defense funds for those issues you're talking about, I can't say for sure, but I'd bet on it that it will not apply to the probate courtrooms.
Okay.
Because we never have any criminal defendants. We don't deal with that.
Okay.
So,
All right. Thank you.
We do have a plan in place for that has identified the rooms within the courthouse that would be set aside for the meetings between Indigent Council and the defendants. That is being reviewed by the state right now. Malcolm Brown's second submission of his MIDC report. So if that is approved this time around, we will start working at that point on getting those rooms set up for this fall.
Okay, so we're not gonna have to do any major renovation. There's some rooms already available. And I know
So,
funding's a huge issue.
Within the main courthouse, the only real physical modifications that are going to be required are down in detention, which is in the basement. I don't know if any of you have been in the sheriff's office detention in the basement here at the courthouse, but there's four or five cells down there. Very tight space for where the sheriffs have their offices. And there's one meeting room that's open for up to 3 attorneys. Well, under MIDC rules, they have to be private meeting spaces. So we have to take a janitorial and closet that's also used for general storage, which is next to where that meeting room is, knock the wall out, put in 3 private meeting rooms. So that's all part of the MIDC plan that Malcolm's put together. So as soon as it's adopted, we'll start working on that.
Thank you. Didn't mean to get off the subject.
That's okay.
And of course, that is separate from this.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. As to the subject, Judge Ryan, could you tell some of the committee members some of the issues that go on in the courtroom? Because I don't know if everybody's been to all the courtrooms and know
Sure.
some of the stuff's been going on.
Sure. You know, I would say, as you know, but maybe you don't, our portion of the building, at least where these courtrooms are, is the oldest portion of this building, this entire complex. And they're kind of piecemeal out, just because they're built in the 60s. And, for example, in my particular courtroom, the aisle is very narrow. And because of the nature of probate, we're dealing with the elderly, the vulnerable, disabled. So we get a lot of wheelchairs, multiple, not just one. We'll have maybe 8 people in a wheelchair. And as it is, we need to widen the aisle so that we can have 2 wheelchairs coming in and out. Right now, what'll happen is you have to stop everything, move one wheelchair out to get the others in. So it'll increase the flow of things, it makes it more accessible. And the courtroom also, the courtrooms, all of them, they don't have any space. Once the wheelchairs get in, where do you put them? So we need to make some space, so they'll have, you know, a place to sit and be part of the proceedings versus, you know, holding up an aisleway. What other issues are, and the doorway too, because now wheelchairs are bigger, people are bigger. We need to widen the doorways, because some of the bigger wheelchairs can't come in or out. And so if you widen the doorways, they can get in and out, and maybe some hardware, like you mentioned, like the push button to open the door. So it's just to make it more accessible.
Yeah, it's been an ongoing problem and a long time coming.
Yes, it has, and I'm very grateful for any help we can get, and I'm sure the Oakland County citizens are as well. We need to keep their dignity and have them be accommodated.
Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge Ryan, for being here, because
Thank you, I appreciate being invited.
Amen. So it's just good when someone who has to experience it on a day-to-day basis comes and talks to us and firsthand. I just want to ask you, because it's probate court and you deal with families, and sometimes families don't get along, especially in
Welcome to my
in
world.
court. Right. So with it, the coming and going, the ingress and egress being so tight, does that cause potential for conflict, extra conflict, extra?
The proximity of people?
Yes.
Yes, it does. It actually does.
Okay.
People are kind of on top of each other.
Okay, so
And,
there's a safety issue as well.
There could
With
be.
the space.
Fortunately, at least in my part of the building, I can't speak for the others. Fortunately, around the corner, the commission and the county now have deputies at that door. So that helps a lot. If there's a little bit of chaos going on in the hallway outside of the courtroom, the deputies can just kind of turn the corner and simmer things down. But yes, there's a lot of dysfunction in my courtroom. I hate to say it, but it is job security. And, but yeah, it's tight quarters, but it is what it is.
Yes.
And, these accommodations that we're pitching will be very, very helpful, very helpful.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, and Commissioner, you mentioned the word safety, you
Mhm.
know, of course, beyond the proximity of the family members that might not get along, you know, heaven forbid there were to be an emergency and everyone have to get out of the courtroom in a hurry.
Right.
Right now, that might be difficult, so.
Yeah, the structure of the courtrooms, need to be accommodated, so if there's a fire hazard, a bomb threat, some kind of chaos, right now, only one person can get out at a time. Everyone would be kind of lumped into a courtroom, and you can't get, and we sometimes have gurneys coming into the courtroom. It's not just wheelchairs, it's walkers and canes and gurneys and wheelchairs, and a lot of people are in
Motorized
those motorized
scooters.
scooters with the halos, so it's large apparatuses that need to be in and out of the courtroom, and then to allow other people to come in and out as well.
Thank you.
What's the timeframe, and what will the courtroom disruption be? Or
So we'd be looking at starting around the middle of April and hopefully finishing up around the end of June. So we're looking, you know, right around 3 months. And the plan is to go in the evenings and the weekends and do pieces at a time and get as much done that way so we're not disrupting the court functions.
Okay, good. Any other questions? Let's call the roll.
Teets,
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Crawford.
Yes.
Dwyer.
Yes.
Whitebird.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome, thank you. Communications, need a motion to receive and file. Commissioner Crawford, supported by Commissioner Jackson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passed. Seeing no other business, we'll call this meeting adjourned.